of the 3rd Fleet attacked enemy shipping in Manila Bay, airfields, and other installations on Luzon Island, including the Cavite Naval Base. Two enemy destroyers exploded, 1 light cruiser was damaged, 30 large and medium cargo vessels and tankers sunk or damaged, 1 rafed on the ground, 25 airborne enemy planes shot down, and 40 damaged.
A.m. The morning air is suddenly broken by the eerie wailing sound of the siren. It's an air raid. At last, American planes make their devilish appearance over the free skies of Manila. Defense units seemingly go into action. Without a moment's delay, they intercept the enemy. Bursting shells from anti-aircraft batteries fill the sky. Some of the enemy planes, however, by sheer persistence, manage to elude the curtain of exploding shells to do their brutal work. Heavy defensive fire prevents the enemy from inflicting heavy damage. Nippon military establishments suffer only slightly before the American planes are driven away. But what did these Yankee pilots leave behind them in the city of Manila? In the city of Manila, the precious lives of more than 50 innocent citizens were taken by the barbaric Anglo-American invasion. Those injured were countless. Unfortunate victims of American ruthlessness, all 3 Filipino citizens, killed, injured, or maimed by American planes, by explosive and time bombs, and by my merciless machine gun bullets from low-flying Yankee aircraft. Indeed, a bloodthirsty gang. To East Asians, this is a sacred war determining the rise or fall of the Asiatic race. But to the brutal American barbarians, it is but a sport, and how they revel in its blood and gore. This is the Anglo-American with his mask shorn off. This is his true nature. The murderous devils.
Landing craft carry elements of the 8th Army to beaches just northwest of the Bataan Peninsula, affecting the 2nd amphibious landing on Luzon. Greeted by enthusiastic Filipinos, armored and infantry elements of the 38th Division push inland without opposition. The landing was made without naval bombardment on an 8-mile strip of beach between San Felipe and San Miguel. Leaflets are dropped over the landing area, warning Filipinos to keep roads open for the free movement of troops and supplies. 3.5 hours after the first boat landed, elements of the 38th were well on the way toward Bataan. Filipinos on Luzon receive U.S. food products after 3 years of deficient diet. As liberation forces strike deeper into the central Luzon plain, a growing number of civilians are finding the Army their only means of sustenance. Many are employed in the rehabilitation of damaged cities and towns. Elements of the 25th Infantry Division drive east of Binalonan toward heavily defended San Manuel. Intensified enemy resistance 1 mile east of San Manuel forces men of the 3rd Battalion to seek cover. Defending San Manuel are a number of Jap tanks, several dug in and used as pillboxes. Jap leaps from a tank. Week-old drive for San Manuel nears its end with 789 Japs killed and 49 enemy tanks destroyed. Continuing their progress southward, troops of the 14th Corps bring up artillery to attack the Clark Field area, which is subjected to heavy shelling before tanks and infantrymen move in. Clark Field littered with abandoned enemy aircraft and equipment. Jap prisoners, both soldiers and laborers, at a town near 6th Army headquarters. A second front is set up on Luzon. Tanks and infantry of the 8th Army's 11th Corps, which were put ashore in a surprise landing northwest of Subic Bay, push inland in a flanking movement on Manila. Some resistance is encountered from a battalion of Japanese entrenched in the hills about 8 miles inland from Subic Bay, near Mount Amy. The Japs, unable to contain our advance on Manila, set fire to the area before retreating. Block-to-block street fighting rages in the Rosario suburb of Manila as troops of the 1st Cavalry Division and the 37th Infantry Division join to mop up Jap snipers and small resistance groups in the northern sections of the city. The enemy uses mortars, rockets, and artillery to hinder our advance. Riflemen and machine gunners cover patrols, ferreting out Jap snipers. Filipino girl guerrilla. Buildings are mined and fires started by the retreating Japs. Civilians flee from the burning buildings, salvaging furniture and household goods. Although few persons are injured by the fires, thousands are made homeless over wide areas in the northern part of the city. While inhabitants try to save a few prized possessions, looting adds to the terror and confusion. Jap atrocities in Manila. Men, women, and children suspected by the Japs of being relatives or aiding Filipino guerrillas are tortured, killed, and burned, their bodies thrown into this concrete culvert near a railroad station. Filipino collaborators rounded up by the guerrillas. One of them carried maps showing the burned area of Manila and locations that were to be fired by the Japanese. The collaborator is led through the streets of downtown Manila. The American flag is raised at Santo Tomas University in the city of Manila. The university, used by the Japs as a prison camp, was seized by units of the 1st Cavalry Division, 1st American troops to enter Manila. Internees at Santa Tomas signed the identification register for shipment out of the area. At least 3,700 Allied nationals, most of them American civilians, were freed after 3 years' internment. As food allowances dwindled, the death rate in the camp increased sharply. After our tanks broke in, guards held more than 200 internees as hostages for 34 hours while the camp commander bargained for safe conduct of the Jap garrison. Shells from Jap heavy mortars and 3-inch guns blasted the grounds and buildings of the university, which was under artillery attack for several days after its liberation. American guns massed in the university yard fire against enemy artillery positions. Both soldier and civilian casualties are suffered from the Jap shelling. Bilibid prison in the heart of Manila. More than 800 war prisoners and 550 civilian internees, including women and children, were rescued from this Japanese concentration camp when National Guardsmen of the 37th Division stormed the prison gates. Liberated American servicemen dig in the prison courtyard to find the regimental colors which they buried in the first days of their imprisonment, shortly after their capture at Bataan. General MacArthur visits Bilibid prison. He assured internees that every facility of the armed forces is being devoted to the care and attention of those who've been rescued. Fires in Manila's ruined dock area. The Japs, unable to hold the city, attempt to destroy it completely. Amphibious vehicles and infantry of the 37th Division under the command of Major General Robert S. Beitler move up for a crossing of the Pasig River into southern Manila, last remaining Jap stronghold in the Philippine capital. Entry into the southern part of Manila is delayed by Jap demolition of all 4 bridges across the Pasig River. Troops of the 1st Cavalry Division later joined forces with the 37th Infantry to encircle the Japs and compress them into a narrow pocket at the river's mouth. Elements of the 11th Airborne Division also participated in this encircling movement. Pushed back toward a last stand at Intramuros, the ancient walled part of the city of Manila on the south bank of the Pasig River. Intramuros has set afire in the Jap suicide stand against American troops, closing in on the remnants of enemy resistance. Flames from the burning area light up the sky by night. Our troops advance into the stubbornly defended walled city, one building at a time. The Japs are unable to maintain continuous fire against infantry units, but slow down our progress with machine gun and sniper fire from concealed positions in walls, windows, and rubble. Escape a fire trap set by the Japs in Intramuros. The men withdraw along the Avenida Rizal under heavy machine gun fire and grenade attacks. Japanese resistance, concentrated in public buildings and city landmarks, is systematically reduced by artillery fire. Dozens of enemy guns, ranging from 20mm anti-aircraft guns to 155mm pieces, are knocked out in counterfire against Jap artillery positions. American shelling drives the Jap troops into the open. They dash for shelter across an open plaza. Burning Manila, free after 3 years of Japanese control. Accompanied by Higgins boats filled with troops who landed at Mariveles, a convoy assembles off Bataan and starts across the bay toward Corregidor. Continuing the heavy air attacks that have rocked the island fortress daily for more than 2 weeks, liberators strike at sunrise. Attack bombers follow. For about an hour, they sweep the plateau at the western end of the island, where the Japanese are believed to be dug in the ravines and caves. While the convoy remains at a safe distance, the destroyers and cruisers move in to join the air attack with a heavy bombardment. In the meantime, at Elmore Strip on Mindoro, jump veterans of the 503rd Paratroop Infantry Regiment are briefed for the landing on Corregidor. Despite the small area of the target, 2 separate fields are selected for dropping the troops. The paratroopers get ready to move out. The men check their equipment in preparation for landing on the smallest jump field ever used for paratroops. Jumping altitude is to be 500 to 600 feet. Takeoff for the mission is at 0715. The target run is an hour away. Corregidor is sighted without encountering aerial interception, and the signal is given to prepare for leaving the plane. The naval and air bombardment that began at dawn is continuing. A flight of A-20 sweeps in ahead of the transports to strafe ground installations and enemy personnel. Transports come down as low as 500 feet for the jump. Because of the small targets, only 8 men at a time are dropped on each of the 3 runs. Aim for the golf course and the parade grounds on the rocky plateau known as Topside. The landing fields are next to the sites of our barracks and headquarters buildings destroyed during the siege in 1942. A number of paratroopers are dropped short of their targets and go over the cliffs. They climb down to the beaches, where they're picked up by PT boats. Objective of the landing is to secure the plateau as one arm of a combined air and amphibious operation. Attacking force consists of 2,500 paratroopers. As the men land and get rid of their chutes, they form into units, each pushing out in a different direction toward the plateau's perimeter. While the paratroopers land on Topside and push toward its perimeter, the air and naval bombardment continues to soften the island for a landing from the sea. Hours after the paratroop landing, troops of the 3rd Battalion, 34th Infantry, begin moving in toward San Jose Beach. The beach is near Bottomside, the wrecked dock area on the flat eastern section of the island. Jap emplacements flank the beach from the hills. In spite of the heavy pre-landing barrage, mortar, machine gun, and small arms fire meet the men as they hit the shore. By early afternoon, the 3rd Battalion moves forward to establish contact with the paratroopers.